Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Shorten Associates, legal recruiters in Louisiana and Texas.
From Nola Pizza in the Nola Brewing Tap Room on Chapatula Street in New Orleans, we're out to lunch with Peter Ricchiuti, Tulane University's A.B. Freeman School of Business professor and director of the award-winning Birkenroad Reports. It's business, New Orleans style.
Hi, I'm Peter Ricchiuti. Welcome to Out to Lunch. If you've ever had a sports injury, put your back out, or had some sort of aggravating pain that never seemed to go away, you may have gone to a chiropractor or an acupuncturist. Or if you really couldn't get to the bottom of exactly what's wrong with you, you may have tried alternative medicine in the form of traditional Chinese herbs. You might also assume, because you're a human being, that I'm directing these remarks at you. But actually, I'm talking about the horses and dogs in the audience. A horse's or a dog's medical trajectory is much the same as ours. When traditional Western medicine doesn't cure what's wrong with them, they, or we on their behalf, turn to alternative medicine. One of the practitioners of these animal alternatives, Chinese herbal medicine, acupuncture, chiropractic, is Dr. Michelle Joubert. Dr. Joubert is the owner of an alternative veterinarian practice called The Well-Adjusted Pet. Michelle, welcome to Out to Lunch.
Hi, thanks for having me.
If, like me, you're wondering how you give a horse chiropractic manipulation, we'll get to that exactly how that works in just a minute. Meanwhile, here's an animal question that might be closer to home. Why doesn't your dog do what you tell her? The typical answer to this question is either A, my dog is hard-headed and refuses to obey me, or B, my dog is stupid. The correct answer, apparently, is neither A nor B. The correct answer is the problem is you. Ann Becknell has been a dog trainer and the owner of a dog training school called Companion Dogs since 1990. Ann says her job is not so much training dogs as teaching a dog's owner how to train their dog. I guess the lesson here is even if you want to work with animals because you prefer them to people, you end up working with people. Ann Becknell, welcomed Out to Lunch.
Hi, I'm happy to be here, thanks.
Michelle, I mentioned in the introduction that we approach our animals' medical care the same way we do our own. We try regular medicine first, and if nothing happens, we turn to alternatives like chiropractic, acupuncture, and Chinese herbal medicine. You launched your alternative veterinarian practice, The Well-Adjusted Pet, in 2007. You've been in this business continuously since, so I can only assume that these alternative treatments work. There are reportedly 87,000 veterinarians in the U.S., but only 9,000 veterinarian acupuncturists and only 634 veterinarian chiropractors, which it seems curious. If these treatments have been demonstrated to work when conventional medical treatments don't, and I guess we could ask this about human medicine too, why is chiropractic, acupuncture, and Chinese herbal medicine such a small slice of animal welfare and still regarded as an alternative?
Well, I honestly didn't even know those numbers, so thanks for telling me. I think one of the reasons is because when you go through vet school, it is, traditional Western or allopathic medicine that you learn. And so to get certified in these other modalities, so acupuncture and chiropractic and so on, you do that after vet school. So you can't get certified during that. It's not something that's taught.
And people have said at that point, I've had too much learning already.
I think that could be. And I think also it's, about your calling and what you like and what you're meant to do and what you're good at. And so the good news is now through vet school, the students are exposed to these things now. So like, for instance, the LSU vet school has an integrative medicine rotation that the students can go through. So for small animals, like the rehab and acupuncture and that. So they're exposed to it. But if it's something that they want to do, you have to do that after.
I've been told something, is that it's tougher to get into veterinarian school than regular medical school.
Well, I will tell you one thing. I just had my actually 20-year reunion a couple of months ago. And it just so happens there that one of the wives of one of my classmates. She had applied to vet school 3 times and she didn't get in. So then she applied to medical school and got in, and she did that instead.
This is what I've always thought. Yeah.
Me too.
And I'm sure we could come up with a long list of the differences between people and dogs, but when it comes to behavior, the difference is pretty obvious. As a person, when someone tells you repeatedly to do something, you quickly understand what's required, but you equally quickly come to resent it because most of us don't like repeatedly being told what to do. On the other hand, most dogs love doing what they're told, but they have difficulty understanding what we're getting at. These seem like species design flaws. If people liked doing what they were told, we wouldn't need psychologists. And if dogs understood what they're being told, we wouldn't need dog trainers. You're squarely in the middle of this conundrum. You're the person who has to explain to the dog what's required of it, and you have to find a way to tell the dog's human owners what to do in a way that makes them actually do it. So, how much of being a dog trainer is animal communication, and how much of it is human psychology?
Well, it's a little bit of both. For me, the most important thing is that it's fun. That has always been my motto, because if it's not fun, the people aren't going to do it. If it's a chore, a drudgery that they have to say, okay, I got to train for an hour every day or a half an hour, and I dread it. Whereas if it's in short little lessons that are all fun and games but are educational, then people tend to do it more. And the dog just has fun doing the exercises because they're presented in game format. And that's what all of the new modern dog training is all about, is everything is presented in a game format.
Now, so this is very different than what I think about, where it's kind of a military kind of mean.
That was many, many, many years ago that I did that. Everybody did that as dog trainers because there wasn't anything else. That was all that was available. So we all grew up with that. And then some of the national dog trainers like Dr. Ian Dunbar came out and started teaching the new ways, and I saw him in a conference, and I just got very excited about dog training because it made so much sense, and it didn't hurt the dogs. There was no fear, there was no force. The dogs enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and I never looked back.
Michelle, I watched that PBS show, All Creatures Great and Small, and in that situation, he goes out to see the animals. Is that what you do?
I do, for the most part. So because I work on a lot of horses, and so I do barn calls for them. I do, at this point, see small animal patients out of my home office in Folsom, but ever since I got out of vet school, I initially started an equine ambulatory practice, so I've basically practiced out of my vehicle the entire, the past 20 years.
Wow. Now, just to get things straight, horses are the biggest part of what you do, but you do dogs and...
Yeah, dogs, cats, the occasional bird, actually.
Now, and I'm trying to go over all the things that people say. One of the things they say is you can't teach old dogs new tricks.
And that's not true.
Not true. Look at the
Not
myths
true.
we're breaking right
Now,
here.
it's true in terms of changing behavior, but it's not true as far as teaching them obedience or tricks of any kind. But if you have a behavioral issue, like let's say reactivity on a leash, that has to really be done early. Earlier the better to help them.
And then what do you do in terms of, some people want a private lesson, some want a group lesson. How many lessons do you have before they got it?
It depends on, what the problem is. I mean, some dogs are super easy to train, and usually in my private lessons, I'm going for a specific reason, housebreaking or separation anxiety or something like that, where it might be just one lesson, it might be 6 lessons that they need. And then the group classes, I always do a lot of group classes. It's 13 group classes that people have to sign up for because it takes what it takes. And just a few lessons is not going to do it because I have to teach the people, and then the people have to teach their dog, and they need a lot of help learning to be a dog trainer because that's what I do, is I teach people to be a dog trainer.
And Michelle, the traditional veterinarian, the board and the people that oversee all that, do they believe in what you do, or are they trying to put up roadblocks? Or
No, it's because it's newer, which is funny because it's really not. I mean,
Right, the Chinese one
medicines
particularly.
is like 2,000 years old, but for Western
Jesus
medicine,
had a dog, as I recall. So.
it's about at this point sort of building the foundation and the organizations and associations, like say, so the American Academy of Veterinary Acupuncture, and getting that structured in such a way that there's, you know, specific certification, and then you can become a fellow of it, and then that organization then has a seat within the American Veterinary Medical Association board. So to answer your question, it's getting there. And no, they aren't putting up roadblocks, but most certainly they want to make sure that obviously good medicine is practiced and that the standards are upheld and that what is being taught is correct, and that if you're going to be certified or become board certified in something, that it's up to par, so to speak.
And Ann, you and I are about the same age, 25, and we're and you know, a business sort of runs its course. At some point, people want to retire. What do you have? Do you have a succession plan?
I do. I'm 64, so I'm thinking about it. And my career, it's pretty physical. You know, I do a lot of walking around and getting up and down off the ground and helping people with big dogs. And so far, knock on wood, I'm still hanging in there. But I think that, which I have done in the past, is I'll hire somebody that's young, and they can do more of the legwork, and I can just teach. But those people are extremely difficult to come by.
So you must come by a lot of people that say, I love dogs.
Right,
But that's not.
And they say, oh, you know, I'll get an email and they say, oh, I want to get into this profession, and, you know, can you teach me everything you know? And I'll just volunteer for you. Well, that's not going to work out, right? And so more so I get someone that has a background in dog training and they can actually help me, and I'll have them come and I actually hire them to teach some classes. And then that helps me because I don't have to teach as many classes per week. And I hope that someday, as I start to get older, I can just implement more of that. But unfortunately, there are not many people out there that know the skills that I have to have for this job. There's just not that many people that can do it.
And Michelle, I would assume that a lot of your new business is word of mouth.
It is. I do have other veterinarians that refer to me.
Do you have social media?
I do have social media, not that I'm on it.
Yeah,
I
not
tell
part of
people,
this.
do not message me through Facebook because I will get it 6 months later, and that's when you're going to hear from me. So text me, email me, call me. So I have my website, I have all my contact information there. Yes, I have Twitter. Yes, I have Facebook. Yes, I have Instagram. No, I never go on it.
And that's not part of your marketing plan then? You don't
No.
need a lot. You don't
Well,
need,
I'm not good at it. It
Yeah.
doesn't interest me.
the horses can't do it.
No, I
it's
have
kinda-
other things to do, and honestly, it's never brought me new business, not much at all. Because you're right, it is word of mouth, or if somebody has something happen to their dog or their horse, and they maybe need a different modality, then they go research and they find it, or their primary veterinarian will recommend it and then recommend me.
And Ann, I'm thinking about this training from two ends. One is, they learn to walk with you, and you get them under control a little bit. But the other would be in Louisiana, a lot of people go hunting. Do you train for that?
I don't. That's a completely different genre of dog training, and they have dog trainers that just do that.
Is it easier to train a female than a male?
No.
It's more.
Doesn't matter.
All I know here is wrong. This is a
Yeah.
great show. I'm really
Well,
kind
I
of.
will just say one thing as far as that goes. So for horses, when they're born, when you have a foal, they need to be standing and nursing within 2 hours. That's the goal. Okay. And I can tell you for a fact that if it's a girl, she is going to be up in nursing way sooner than the boys do. The boys are waiting until it's 2 hours and then they finally do it. And if it's a girl, they are up in 30 to 45 minutes and ready to go.
That's interesting.
So that's all I have to say about that.
Wow. Now we're back to things I always thought. This is You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Peter Raschuti. I'm talking with veterinarian, animal chiropractor, and acupuncturist and owner of the Well-Adjusted Pet, Michelle Jobert, and dog trainer and owner of Companion Dogs, Ann Becknell. And when you have a business like yours and you want to get out, how do you do it and what's it worth? In some sense, you are the company.
Yes, I'm a one-person operation.
So you have these employees
It's
and you've got...
taxing.
Yeah. And
It's
you've got,
very taxing.
and you've got a reputation and such, but that's tough to sell, right? I mean,
To
in
sell
terms
my
of-
reputation?
Yeah, in terms of, getting money for the business.
Well, I would say that would be true in the beginning when you're first starting out, but I've been in New Orleans for over 35 years, and I don't have to try anymore to get business. I have too much business because almost all of the veterinarians know me. I have so many students out there that recommend me. I have social media too, but I don't try to get business. I don't have to do anything to get business because it just comes to me, which is just a lot of years of putting in the work. When people hire me, they want me. They don't want somebody else that's not as experienced.
Michelle, I've got to admit, these are all been questions I've been thinking about all week. Logistically, when you give a horse, chiropractic or acupuncture, how do you physically do it? He's a big person.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wondered that too before I got my certification. So I actually have these 2 big styrofoam bales that I use to stand on to get the height that I need, like for most of the horse. So as far as like just physically getting into the position that you need, yeah, I definitely need help with that. But then as far as thinking about how you have to be like maybe a big, strong person to do it, it goes back to basic physics, which is force equals mass times acceleration. So it's not about how big you are, but how fast you perform the adjustment. So, and also the joint space that I'm trying to affect isn't that huge. So like the vertebrae of the horse might be big.
It's bigger than mine, right? But it's...
Absolutely.
Okay.
But the space where they articulate and where the motion comes from that we're trying to impact change isn't actually that big. It might be, a couple of inches. So that's how. It's about how fast you do it, not how big you are.
Wow. Now, what about acupuncture? I mean, do the horses need to be knocked out for this?
No. In fact, most of them like
Do they
it.
like it? That's what my question was.
Most of them really do like it. Once they get, we'll have certain points that we start with that we consider to be permission points. Like, okay, we're starting here. How do you like it? You like it, you don't like it, you're trying to kick me or not. And I tell people that if they don't want it, then we'll do something else. So it's really all about what they allow. But for the most part, I don't have very many that I'm not able to perform acupuncture on.
And I've got to ask you this question because it's made me think of it. During the pandemic, I've really thought of getting another dog. Am I alone in that?
No, that is, when we had the lockdown, I had so many people calling me desperate because they needed help and everybody was locked down. And I did go see a few people and we just all masked up and trained outside and because they needed help right then and there. And I felt bad for them. I felt like I was doing something wrong, but it was the only people that I saw. So I was glad to see them. And one of them she's still coming to me for dog training, and like she kind of got me through the lockdown period. But the business has increased a lot because of the pandemic. I was one lucky profession that didn't lose my job, had plenty business, and I was very fortunate because so many people got a dog and are still getting dogs because they're mostly staying at home. But that did lead to a problem where people weren't getting out and they weren't leaving their dogs alone. and the dog's got separation anxiety. And there's a whole lot of them out there with separation anxiety.
I think I have that. Michelle, you worked at a racetrack, and at one point way back, and one of the complaints is always that they get too many drugs. Would this be an alternative?
No.
No.
Unfortunately. There's a reason I no longer work on the racetrack. So I worked on the racetrack for 8.5 years, 2 different ways. For 4 years, I was in private practice there. So like working for the trainers and the owners, like getting the horses ready to race, and then, dealing with any injuries or any sickness that they have. And then for the other 4 years, I was actually the associate track veterinarian. So then I worked for the racetrack, which is ensuring that the horses are sound and ready to race and make sure that they're okay.
So there could be a conflict there between the owner and the racetrack?
Well, sure, because the owner, here's the thing, the problem is though, they all want to run so they can all make money. And that's where the vets are really important, because we are sort of the ones giving the horses a voice and making sure that they are in optimal health to do so. And acupuncture and chiropractic and all of this is great, but the fundamentals of training, unfortunately, a lot of it is medication based. And so while they're getting better at developing national rules and testing, it is tough because you do have a lot of underhanded people that are looking for, the drug from out of the country that they don't have a test for yet, and they use it as long as they can, and as some type of performance enhancement.
So I would bet that I would not see you betting on the ponies.
No.
Okay.
Is that why you got out of it? Because of the dark side of the racing?
Sure. It wears on you. I mean, it really does. And so I think you either become totally numb to it, or you get out of it. And I was becoming totally numb to it, and it was wearing on me and my health, and so I had to get out of it.
And what would be an example of how do you define failure?
It happens, and that the norm, sometimes it's the person, sometimes it's the dog. In the case of the person, there have been people that they're either unwilling to do what I ask them to do, and it gets to the point where I just, in a group class, I tell them so many times, 5 different ways, and they still are doing their own thing. I just sort of let them go ahead and do their own thing, and it may or may not work out. And so sometimes there are people that just don't have the ability to do dog training because of just different things, and then they don't do well, and they probably blame it on me, and that's okay, and they quit. In the case of the dogs, there are a small percentage of dogs that have something that, let's say the dogs that have an aggression issue that's dangerous. I do usually recommend either that they have to manage the dog and keep them safe and away from people or other dogs, which is hard to do, or put the dog down, because there's just nothing that's going to help them with the training. I recommend a vet behaviorist first, and if she can't help them, then that's just it. And some of them do need to be put down. So sometimes it doesn't work out.
I used to love a show. I think it was a British woman was the host, that No Bad Dogs.
Oh yeah, Barbara Woodhouse.
Yes.
Walkies. Remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Anne, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So, like you said, with the lockdown, people have been home with their pets, and I, of course, have pets. I have 5 dogs now. Just got a new addition over Christmas. The dogs are now completely accustomed to having a human with them at all times. And I would like to get to the point where I can leave the house again with my wife, and we can go do something and have the dogs not destroy the house.
So the two of you can't leave.
Well, let me put it this
Somebody
way.
home all the time?
I have one little terrier mix named Daisy May who gets very unhappy if we leave the house without her. So,
What do you mean by very unhappy?
like, we have to make sure that everything is picked up, that she can't get to any paper on the table, that if there's anything that she can potentially chew up that isn't a toy, just to let us know that she is unhappy, that she has been left without a human, she will let us know.
Have you put a camera on her to watch what happens when you're gone?
No.
That's the first step.
Like a GoPro around their neck, something like that.
You put a little Nest camera
Okay.
on them so you can watch
Okay.
to see what their anxiety level is during
Okay.
the time that you're gone. And when they get the most anxiety, like is it right when you leave or is it more near the end or so you want to know what's going on. That's the
Okay.
very first step.
Okay.
Do you ever put her behind a gate so that she doesn't have access to your whole house?
Well, they really, we have certain areas gated off, like my office that they're not allowed to go into, but this is even just like in the living room that, you know,
Could she be gated off in the kitchen?
she would not be happy with that. And she kind of rules the house. Like, she just lets us live there and pay the mortgage, really.
Well, that might be your problem.
Yeah. I think so.
Because it's about the dogs being our companions and not about ruling the whole house. There are rules and boundaries for dogs that they have to learn. And
yeah. I
so
might need you to come help me teach her
and
that.
really for the separation anxiety dogs, I usually give them to Dr. Laura Ansel, who is the
Is she out of
behaviorist.
Mississippi or?
She's in Mandeville, I think.
Oh.
She's
oh,
on the North Shore.
Yes, she
but
just
she
moved
comes
back.
to New Orleans.
Yes.
She just got back. She
Yes.
was on hiatus,
That's right.
sabbatical. But she's the one that does the really difficult behavior problems. I'm a dog trainer,
Right.
and separation anxiety is the hardest behavior to treat
Right.
in dogs. If they are exhibiting physical symptoms like they're panting, they're chewing out of a cage, they're jumping through windows, physically harming
Sure.
themselves, those are the cases that are really, really difficult.
Yeah, that's
now
tough.
if she's just chewing up a few pieces of paper, that's really not a big deal.
No, it's not a huge deal, but
Yeah.
she just lets us know that she is unhappy. And I guess it just also might take time of us continuing to go out.
Yes, but
and letting
first
her
thing is camera.
camera.
Because you don't know she might not be as bad off as you think, or she might be worse than you think.
Good
you
point.
need to know what's going on.
Good point.
Well, I hope she's not. These dogs aren't eating your business records, because that would be tough during an audit. But
That's
they,
yeah. You definitely have to watch what we keep out. That's for sure.
It's a lot harder when you have multiple dogs.
Yeah.
It's better for the separation anxiety because they have a friend.
Oh, that's what I tell them.
Yeah.
Like, there are 5
But
of you. Can't you
5.
entertain each
Yeah,
other?
but-
evidently they need a human to do that. I don't know. So,
Michelle, how do you get paid? Is it by the visit, or are you like on retainer for people?
no, yeah, it's by visit. So, by services rendered is,
Must be tough for you to budget in that way, right?
yes, it is. It's tough. And actually, I just agonized for months over having to increase my prices January 1st because I haven't changed my prices in 5 years. And so obviously with inflation, but I truly agonized over it because you hate to do it. I hate to do it. I mean, I would work for free if I could because I do love my job, but I do have to pay the bills as well. So it is tough. And it's, now that there are more people out there doing it as well, I looked around, I'm like, wait a second, there are people out here who have way less experience than I do, charging way more. So that's a little irksome, but
I think it's the first chapter of an economics book. I think you got it. There's, and I probably You've probably been asked this many times, but do you train cats?
No.
Oh, they seem like they really have.
No cat training.
Yeah, they seem to have a different agenda
Yeah.
than most of us.
Yeah.
There's no doubt we're making huge advances in all kinds of fields of human endeavor. A virtual assistant can give us instant answers to almost any question we asked. AI is on the way to learning almost everything humans can do, and we're seriously investigating building inhabitable cities on other planets. But with all these advances, we still haven't made much progress on how to communicate with the millions of creatures who share this planet with us, present company excluded. Michelle and Anne, you spend all of your professional lives communicating with dogs and horses. Your animal clients and their human companions greatly appreciate you, and I do. Thank you both for taking the time today to join me for Out to Lunch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
My guests on Out to Lunch today have been Dr. Michelle Joubert, veterinarian, animal chiropractor, acupuncturist, and owner of the Well-Adjusted Pet, and Anne Becknell, dog trainer and owner of Companion Dogs. We edited the show to fit into the time slot here on WWNO. You can hear our unedited conversation and find out more about Anne and Michelle and horses and dogs by listening to the Out to Lunch podcast. You can find and subscribe to the Out to Lunch podcast on your podcast app and on our website, itsneworleans.com. If you want to know what we all look like, you can find photos from this show on itsneworleans.com and on our Out to Lunch social media. Out to Lunch is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsneworleans.com and WWNO 89.9 FM. The producer of our show is Grant Morris, our technical producer is Eric Merle, and our researcher is Maggie Mendel. I'm Peter Raschuti. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to meeting you again next week around the lunch table for more business, New Orleans style, on Out to Lunch.
Out to Lunch was recorded live over lunch at the NOLA Brewing Tap Room, 3001 Chapatula Street, open 7 days a week. NOLA Brewing Tap Room has a wide variety of craft beers and authentic hand-tossed New York style city pizza by NOLA Pizza. More information is at nolabrewing.com. Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Short & Associates, legal recruiters in Louisiana and Texas. Mitchell Foreman wrote and performs all the music on Out to Lunch. You can hear Mitchell's music anywhere great jazz is sold or streamed, and at mitchellforeman.com.